My name is Lena Whitaker. I'm 34, and I work nights as a home health nurse in Cedar Bluff, Missouri. So trust me when I say I know what quiet sounds like. But Christmas morning? It wasn't quiet. It was empty. No sound of Mom's gospel station playing in the kitchen. No cinnamon rolls in the oven. No Derek shouting that we're late again. Just my suitcase still sitting by the front door packed and ready. They told me the trip was canceled. Have you ever been so used to being overlooked that you didn't even realize you'd been erased? Drop a comment if you've ever felt invisible to your own family. Because what I found that morning, it wasn't just silence, it was betrayal. Let me take you back to the moment I knew something was terribly wrong. It started with the light. Too bright, too high in the sky for December morning. I blinked against it, disoriented, the way you feel when you oversleep before a shift and know something's gone wrong before your feet hit the floor. My phone said 9:14, which made no sense. We were supposed to be leaving by 7 o'clock. Even with the trip canceled, Mom had mentioned breakfast at least. Church radio and coffee, last-minute chaos. But all I heard was the hum of the fridge and the wind rattling against the old back window. Still half asleep, I called out, "Mom?" Nothing. I swung my legs off the bed. Cold hardwood against bare feet. I shuffled down the hall, brushing sleep from my eyes, already reaching for excuses. Maybe someone ran to the store. Maybe Tamara was dropping off the kids. Maybe anything but what I was about to find. Mom's bedroom? Bed made. Her slippers missing. Closet half empty. Derek's door was wide open, bed unmade but clearly slept in. His duffel bag, the one I helped him find last week, was gone. I paused in front of Tamara's old room. It still smelled like her perfume, even though she hadn't lived here in years. But the pack and play was missing. The extra jackets she'd hung on the back of the door were gone too. Still, my bag sat exactly where I left it by the front door. Packed, zipped, waiting. I walked through the living room. The throw blanket on the couch was bunched like someone had sat there recently. Stockings still hung over the mantel, limp and untouched. In the kitchen, the smell of coffee hit me like a slap. 4 mugs sat in the sink. One still had lipstick on the rim. The casserole dish was nearly empty. The cinnamon rolls were mostly gone, the foil tossed lazily beside them. They'd eaten. They'd gathered. Together. Without me. I stood there for a long time, trying to make the facts rearrange themselves into something that made sense. But they didn't. I opened the back door and stepped onto the porch. My breath caught in the cold morning air, but I barely felt it. The driveway was empty. No sign of Mom's station wagon. No Derek's truck. Not even the borrowed minivan Tamara had picked up from the rental place last week. Just my little Honda. Sitting there, alone. Like me. I went back inside, heartbeat loud in my ears. Picked up my phone, checked my texts. My call log. Nothing. Not even a, "Hey, change of plans," or a, "We'll come get you." I finally called Mom. It rang 4 times before she picked up. Her voice was bright. Too bright. "Sweetheart, did you just wake up?" In the background I heard laughter, music, a child squealing. They were on the road. They were well into the trip. "You left without me," I said, softer than I meant to. "A pause." "What?" "No, we wait. Aren't you in the car with Derek?" I swallowed hard. "Number, I'm in the kitchen. At home." More silence. Then muffled talking. "Someone, Tamara?" saying something I couldn't quite catch. When Mom came back, her voice had shifted. Still sweet. But wary. "Oh, honey, there must have been some kind of mix-up. We thought you were riding with Derek and Ronnie. It was chaos this morning, you know how it is." No apology. Just spin. I bit the inside of my cheek. Did no one think to check if I was in the house, or even send me a text? "It was hectic," she said again. "We just assumed." Assumed. That word hit harder than I expected. Assumed I'd be there. Assumed I'd handle things. Assumed I'd be okay with being left behind. "I have to go, sweetheart," she said quickly. Signal's getting bad in the mountains. We'll figure it out, okay? Click. I stared at the phone. My bag was still by the door. I was packed. I was ready. And they left me anyway. Not forgot. Not by accident. They just didn't think I mattered enough to double-check. And that was worse. I didn't move for a long time. Just stood there in the kitchen, phone in one hand, the cold seeping into my feet from the tile. The cinnamon roll pan was still warm. The coffee pot half full. Like they hadn't just left. Like I was the one who had forgotten something. I checked my messages again. Scrolled all the way down, hunting for anything be ready, we're outside, even a typo-filled panic text. Nothing. The last message in the group thread was from me. 2 nights ago. I printed the directions for each car. Left extras on the table. Let me know if anyone needs more copies. No one had responded. I opened the group chat again, the one labeled family first, but something looked off. Only 4 contacts showing. Carol, Anthony's, cousin Jake, and me. Where was everyone else? I backed out and searched trip group in my messages. A new thread popped up, one I'd never seen before. Labeled, Operation Ozark Christmas. I clicked. You're not a participant in this conversation. It hit me like a slap. They had made a new group. A separate one. And I wasn't invited. I sat down hard at the table. My legs didn't feel steady anymore. The air felt thick, like the house itself was embarrassed for me. I stared at the casserole dish again. Had I even been supposed to see that? Or was it just carelessness, the kind that comes from no longer worrying whether I'd notice at all? I went to Facebook next. Not because I wanted to, I hadn't posted anything in over a year, but because I knew Tamara couldn't resist. She was the type who made going to Target a 3-part story. Sure enough, there it was. A boomerang from a gas station parking lot. Tamara in a puffer coat, holding a to-go coffee, spinning toward the camera with a grin. Her caption. Let the chaos begin. Number family first. Number road trip vibes. Number we made it. I clicked on it, half hoping the signal would drop. The comments came fast. Cousin Rachel. Glad the whole gang made it. Aunt Susan. Can't wait to see everyone in the cabin. Ronnie, of course, Ronnie. Snowball fight incoming. And then, under it all, Mom's reply. So blessed to have everyone together. Everyone. The words sat there like a boulder. No one had replied to my last message. No one had checked if I was coming. But here they were, cheerfully posting like the world was whole and I had never existed. I switched over to Instagram. Tamara had already uploaded a reel. Music, filters, slow-motion packing shots, Derek and Ronnie high-fiving next to the van. One of the clips showed the breakfast table this morning. The same mugs. The same casserole. But from a different angle when I wasn't in. No one asked where I was. No one paused filming. I could feel it bubbling up, that ache behind the ribs that usually meant tears were coming. But nothing happened. Just a strange pressure in my chest and a dull hum in my ears. Like I was watching someone else's life. And maybe I had been for a long time. I opened my notes app and typed out a question. Did they lie? Or just not bother? I couldn't decide which was worse. I scrolled back up the family chat again, the real one. The one I thought we all still used. So many of the last dozen messages were mine. I got the snacks. Reminder to pack thick socks. AG. Anyone have extra ice scrapers? And before that? Can't wait to see everyone. We're due for a good year. That one stung more than the rest. I locked my phone and set it face down on the table. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the packing list I printed last week. Color-coded. With little snowflake icons. I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. putting that together. I thought if I made it easy for everyone, if I made myself useful, they'd want me there. I was wrong. The mug with lipstick on it still sat in the sink. Mom's favorite shade, Plum Whisper. I remember buying it for her last Mother's Day, hoping she'd smile the way she used to when we made each other laugh. She'd barely noticed it then. But she'd worn it this morning. Before leaving. before deciding that this trip this Christmas would be better without me. A soft buzz vibrated the table. A new notification. Another post. A wide shot of the cabin's driveway, snow, pine trees, kids tumbling out of cars. Even the family dog, yapping at the front porch. Cousin Jake had captioned it. "We're finally here." Tamara replied, "Time to unplug and unwind with our favorite people." I didn't even cry. I just stared at that sentence for a long, long time. Favorite people. I wasn't one of them. And suddenly, I wasn't sure I ever had been. The silence had settled in like fog. I sat at the kitchen table, the same place I'd written out the packing checklist 2 weeks ago. Each section had been color-coded. One for kids, one for adults, one for shared cabin supplies. I remember feeling proud of it. Now I just felt stupid. I opened my laptop, not to distract myself. I couldn't have focused on a show or a movie if I tried, but because something had started tugging at the back of my brain. I wanted to see the receipts. Not emotionally. Practically. I needed proof. Evidence that I hadn't imagined the role I played in this. I pulled up my email and searched reservation. Dozens of hits came up: hotel bookings, car rentals, restaurant confirmations. All of it under my name. All of it tied to the same credit card. Click by click, the weight got heavier. The resort deposit. $2,100. Ski rental vouchers for the kids. $740. Van rental. 800. Christmas Eve dinner reservation prepaid. $1,050. Stocking stuffers and custom mugs I'd ordered from Etsy. $312. Groceries for the trip, already delivered to Tamara's house. $600. And that was just the big stuff. The total stared at me from the spreadsheet I'd created in October. A planning tool, I'd called it. Something to help us track expenses and divide things fairly. Lu, 850. $7. I sat back, staring at the number. Most of it had been charged to my main card, the one I used for emergencies. The one I was still paying off from the time my car needed a new transmission last spring. I opened the shared doc I'd made and checked the paid column. Every family member had promised to reimburse me by Christmas. It was written right there in the thread. I'd even added a little snowman emoji at the bottom to make it look cheerful. Nothing had been paid. Not 1 cent. And now they were all at the cabin. The cabin I booked, with the food I ordered and the beds I reserved. I closed the laptop slowly. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, not yet, but from a kind of stunned hurt that didn't quite know where to go. They knew I'd covered the trip. We'd talked about it at dinner. Mom said, "Lena's always the organized one." Tamara laughed and said, "You're basically our travel agent at this point." And I'd smiled. Like that was enough. It wasn't just about the money. It was the pattern. Last summer, I helped Derek co-sign a short-term loan when he couldn't get approved on his own. He said he'd pay me back as soon as work picked up. He still hadn't. The year before that, I covered the deposit on a beach house when Tamara forgot to book in time and everything was full. I never saw that money again either. I didn't do it because I was rich. I'm not. I did it because it felt like the only way to stay needed. I glanced toward the hallway where the family photo wall used to hang. Mom had taken it down last year when she repainted, but never put it back up. One of those frames had a picture from our Smoky Mountains trip, the last time I remembered feeling like part of the group. I had baked cookies with the kids, decorated the tree, taught little Mason how to play Uno. That year, Mom actually asked me to light the fireplace. That year, Tamara let me sit at the grown-up table. I bakerist. I thought maybe things were changing. Now I saw it for what it was. I wasn't family. I was function. The helper. The note-taker. The one who stayed late to clean up after dinner and sent thank you cards on everyone's behalf. But not this year. This year, they had taken what they needed and left me behind. I looked over at my suitcase again. Still zipped. Still untouched. The packing list peeked out from the front pocket, folded in quarters. I walked over and pulled it out. At the bottom, I'd written a note to myself in pencil. Don't forget, extra charger, gloves, peace offering for mom, maybe those cinnamon almonds she likes. Even now, I had planned to show up ready to earn my place again. A peace offering. I folded the paper and tucked it back inside. The worst part wasn't that they left. It was that they knew they could. I must have stared at that packing list for 10 solid minutes. Not reading it, just staring. The handwriting on the corner. My handwriting. That little reminder. Peace offering for mom. It felt so far away. Like someone else had written it. Some other version of me who still thought the right gift, or the right attitude, might change things. I finally stood up, went to the sink, and rinsed out the coffee pot. The lipstick rim was still there. Plum whisper. Mom's go-to. I scrubbed it harder than I needed to. And then I picked up my phone. I don't know what I thought would happen. Maybe she'd apologize. Maybe say there was a mistake. Maybe blame Derek, or Tamra, or timing. But I had to hear her voice. I needed something real to hold on to. I tapped her name. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. No. I'll call you right back. No text saying she was busy. Just silence. I hung up and called again. Same thing. I tried Derek next. His picture popped up, that dumb grinning selfie he took the day he got the truck running again. Straight to voicemail. I called Tamra. Once. Then twice. No answer. But this time, a text popped up. Thought you weren't coming. Too late to fix it now. I read it 3 times. No. Sorry. No. Are you okay? Just a sentence. Cold as concrete. I typed out a response. Then deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I sent. You told me the trip was cancelled. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. And that was it. I leaned against the counter, phone still in hand, waiting for something that didn't come. Some part of me still wanted to believe this wasn't what it looked like. That maybe there was a scramble, a miscommunication, a last-minute mix-up. But the silence was getting louder. I tried Rachel, my cousin on Dad's side. She'd always been a little quieter than the rest, a little less polished. The kind of person who helped clean up after dinner even when she wasn't asked. The call rang 4 times, then 5. She didn't answer either. But unlike the others, I could tell she'd seen it. She was the kind of person who always picked up. Unless someone told her not to. I dropped the phone on the kitchen table. It made a dull sound against the wood, like a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence I didn't want to read. My eyes drifted back to the hallway, where the front door stood half-lit by the afternoon sun. My suitcase still waited by the door, untouched. I don't know why I hadn't moved it. Maybe part of me was still hoping they'd come back. Ring the bell. Say it was all a big mistake. Or maybe I just needed the evidence to stay right there. Visible. Unignorable. I sat back down and stared at my phone again. I pulled up our last group thread, the one I used to be in before they moved on without me. All the messages still there. Mine were the last 7. No one ever responded. I typed a new one now, just to see if it would go through. Hope the drive was smooth. I'm still here if anyone wants to explain what happened. Delivered. Seen by Carol Whitaker. Seen by Tamra. No reply. Not even a thumbs up. I opened Instagram again, even though I knew I shouldn't. Tamra had posted another story. Kids in snow boots. Derek hauling firewood up the path. Mom in the background, bundled up in her red scarf, the one I gave her 2 Christmases ago. They all looked happy. Not rushed. Not confused. Just settled. Settled into the idea of me not being there. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an accident. This was comfortable for them. They weren't scrambling to reach me. They weren't checking where I was. They were relaxing because I wasn't there. And maybe that was the plan all along. The buzz of the refrigerator kicked on, filling the room with its soft hum. And for a moment, it felt like the only thing in the house that noticed I still existed. I stood up again and walked toward the window. Watched the branches sway in the wind. I tried calling Mom one more time. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message this time. I just stared at the phone and whispered, "You left me out. And now you don't even have the decency to say it out loud." I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay on the couch with the television on low, letting some crime docuseries play in the background while my thoughts circled the drain. The couch smelled like peppermint from the candle Tamra left burning the last time she visited. I hadn't even noticed it until now. But suddenly it was everywhere. I grabbed the throw blanket and pulled it over my chest like it could block the memories flooding back. Their laughter. That photo of the cabin. The silence on the other end of the line. By sunrise, my body felt like it had been through a war, even though I hadn't moved an inch. At around 7, I got up to make coffee. I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. My phone was still blank, no messages. Not even a, "Hey, sorry," from anyone. I opened the junk drawer while searching for a clean notepad. Something to help me make sense of all this, if not emotionally, then at least logistically. I started pulling out old pens, expired coupons, loose batteries. And there it was. A blue flash drive, covered in a thin layer of dust, wedged between a broken rubber band and a bent paperclip. It took me a second to remember what it was. I'd used it a couple years ago to organize documents for a family camping trip before we started doing everything online. Back then, Tamra had said I was being extra for wanting backups of everything. I'd called it prepared. Now I just called it evidence. I brought it over to my laptop and plugged it in. The folder popped open almost instantly. A few PDFs, some packing lists, and a folder labeled Holiday Cabin. Options. I clicked it. Inside were subfolders. One labeled Confirmed 2021. Another 2022 backup ideas. Then one I didn't recognize. Plan B, no Lena. I froze. I clicked it. Inside were 4 files. A text document, a map, and 2 screenshots. My heart started pounding in my ears. I opened the text doc first. It was short. Just a bulleted list. Cabin W, pull out if Lena flakes. Derek brings folding chair just in case. Avoid drama if she asks last-minute scramble, excuse. Default to Tamra's text version of events. I stared at the screen, unable to move. It felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Plan B, no Lena. They had planned for this. Prepared for my absence. Expected it, maybe even hoped for it. I clicked the first screenshot. It was a group text cropped, with only a few visible lines. Tamra. She hasn't said anything, so we just go ahead. She'll assume it's off. Ronnie. Lol, she always assumes. Classic Lena. I slammed the laptop shut. Stood up too fast and had to steady myself on the counter. My cheeks burned. My eyes stung. But I still didn't cry. I wasn't sad anymore. I was furious. Not the loud, throw a chair kind of fury. The quiet kind. The kind that simmers under your skin, waiting. The kind that changes you. I walked to the front door and stared at my suitcase. Still sitting there. Still packed. Still waiting for people who never planned to come. I turned and went back into the kitchen. Sat down. Opened the laptop again. The second screenshot showed a message from Tamra to someone named Ashroom Moms. It read, "All set on our end. Just gotta make sure she stays out of the loop until we're wheels up. She'll be fine, she's got work anyway." That was the part that broke something in me. She'll be fine. Like I wasn't a person. Just a factor to work around. A hiccup. Something to be handled. I opened my email and searched Tamra. Dozens of threads came up. Old ones. All the times I'd sent her lists, reminders, confirmations. And she'd replied with, "You're the best," or, "Don't know how we do this without you." Now I did. They just replaced me. No warning. No conversation. Just moved on. I minimized the window and sat there for a long time. The sun was higher now. A soft golden light hit the table. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't waiting anymore. Something had shifted. Something inside me had closed. Not in a cold way. In a final way. By noon, I couldn't sit in that house anymore. The walls felt closer. The rooms too quiet. Even the sunlight through the window looked like it didn't want to touch me. So I did what I always do when I feel lost. I went to work. I wasn't scheduled. But my supervisor, Tanya, is always short-staffed around the holidays. I sent her a quick text. "Anyone need coverage tonight?" She responded in less than 5 minutes. "You're a Christmas angel, Lena. Can you cover Tryon Ardeg for Mrs. Tannen?" I said yes. Because saying yes is what I do. I got dressed slowly. Black scrubs. Gray fleece jacket. Same ones I've worn for years. I caught myself in the mirror on the way out. Hair in a low ponytail. Tired eyes, neutral face. I looked like someone who wasn't expecting much from the day. The drive was short 10 minutes to the assisted living center. I'd done these shifts so many times, the parking lot practically knew the sound of my car. Inside, everything smelled faintly like cinnamon, oatmeal, and hand sanitizer. The receptionist smiled and waved without looking up. When I got to Mrs. Tannen's room, it was dim. The blinds were drawn, the television on mute. She was sitting in her recliner, hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes glazed over in that way that said she'd been staring at nothing for hours. When she saw me, she blinked. "Oh. Hello, dear." Her voice was dry but warm. "It's me, Mrs. Tannen," I said, kneeling beside her. "Lena." She squinted a little. Then smiled politely. "Of course. The quiet girl who blends in." The words landed softer than they should have. But they still landed. I gave her her pills. Checked her vitals. Refilled the humidifier. All while she stared out the window like I wasn't there. And, for a moment, I felt like I wasn't. Like I was just a pair of hands. Moving through space. Performing duties. Not a person. Just function. Just like I was at home. I went to the break room around 6 o'clock. No one else was there. I sat down with a cup of lukewarm coffee, the styrofoam creaking in my hand. There was a schedule board near the microwave, one of those laminated ones with staff names and color-coded shifts. I stared at it too long. Every square told a story. Who got holidays off? Who always covered? Who no one ever questioned? My name was in red for both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. No one had asked if that was okay. Not even me. I pulled out my phone and scrolled, just to keep my hands busy. Still no messages. Not from Mom. Not from Tamara. Not from Derek. But one voicemail icon blinked. I hadn't noticed it earlier. It was from a local number. The office of Dr. Penner. My old therapist. I hadn't seen her in over a year. I pressed play. "Hi Lena, it's Carrie from Dr. Penner's office. We had a last-minute cancellation Tuesday afternoon. Just wanted to see if you were still on the callback list. Let us know if you'd like to come in. We're here." That last line stuck with me. We're here. 2 little words. And for some reason, they cracked something open. I looked around the break room again. Still empty. Still silent. But now it felt a little less lonely. I saved the voicemail. Then pressed it again. Just to hear her say it one more time. We're here. I thought about the flash drive. The folder, the screenshots. I thought about the group chat that no longer existed on my phone. And the table where I had sat 3 days ago, ordering custom mugs that they'd unwrap without a second thought. And then I thought about Mrs. Tannen, calling me the girl who blends in. She didn't mean it as an insult. But it was the most accurate thing anyone had said in days. I was always blending in. Always trying not to take up space. Always making sure everyone else had what they needed, even if it meant disappearing myself. And now? Now I had. At least to them. I looked at the clock. 3 more hours of my shift. 3 more hours of being the person who shows up, takes care, stays quiet. But maybe not forever. Maybe not much longer. I clocked out of my shift a little after 11. The parking lot was half frozen, and my windshield wipers were stuck to the glass. I didn't bother fixing them right away, just sat in the front seat with the engine running and the heat slowly creeping in. I stared at the glowing dashboard like it might give me answers. Instead, it gave me silence. But I wasn't afraid of that anymore. By the time I got home, the frost had lifted. A thin fog rolled through the backyard, and the porch light flickered like it always did when it was damp. I didn't even take off my coat. Just walked straight to the dining room table, opened my laptop, and pulled up the reservation confirmation from the resort. It had my name on it, my address, my email, my credit card. I clicked the Manage Booking link, not even blinking. The page loaded with a countdown. You are past the 48-hour refund window. Partial cancellation terms apply. Of course. I clicked Contact Customer Support and dialed the number on the screen. A woman answered after 3 rings. Her voice was chipper in that customer service way. Snowgate Ridge Resort, how can I help you today? I kept my tone flat. Hi. My name's Lena Whitaker. I'm the primary on a multi-unit family reservation for this week. I need to cancel the entire booking. She paused. I'm so sorry to hear that, Miss Whitaker. Unfortunately, we're just past the... I know. That's why I'm calling. Something came up. Something serious. And frankly, I was the one who paid for all of it. The people showing up aren't even on the card. Another pause. I see. Just one moment. The line went quiet for over a minute. I could hear my own breathing. The soft click of the ceiling fan above the table. Finally, she came back. Okay, Miss Whitaker. I can override the policy manually. I'll go ahead and cancel the full package. The refund should appear in your account within 3 to 5 business days. Can you send me the cancellation confirmation by email? Of course. Anything else I can help with today? I thought for a moment. Then said, number that's all. And just like that, it was done. I closed the laptop. Saturday they're staring at it, letting the silence settle back in. It felt good. Not in a fireworks kind of way. Not dramatic. But good. Like exhaling after holding your breath too long. I stood up and walked over to the fridge. Pulled off the budget chart I'd taped there a month ago. I had marked every family payment I was expecting for the trip in blue. All blank. Now I grabbed a red Sharpie and crossed every single one out. I didn't care if it ruined the page. It wasn't a budget anymore. It was a lesson. I checked my banking app out of habit, not expecting the refund to be there yet. But it was. 6,854.72. Pending. The number glowed like a little victory. I stared at it for a long time, then whispered to myself. They're gonna show up and find out the hard way. And I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. That money was mine. The trip was mine. The time was mine. They had taken all of it like I was just a footnote. A convenience. But this time, I didn't erase myself for them. I got my money back. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit more than that. I walked to the window and looked out across the yard. A soft snow had started falling, tiny flakes swirling under the porch light like glitter. I pulled the coat tighter around me and just watched. They were probably halfway through the drive. Singing in the car. Playing those dumb holiday road trip games Tamara always insisted on. They had no idea. No idea the cabin wouldn't be ready. No idea the door codes wouldn't work. No idea that I had finally stopped pretending to be okay with being forgotten. Let them figure it out when they get there. Let them stand in the cold for once. I walked back to the table and sat down. There was a notepad beside my laptop, the one I used to scribble reminders and grocery lists. I wrote one line across the top. This year, I'm not apologizing for doing what's right for me. Then I underlined it. Twice. The locksmith showed up 10 minutes early. I appreciated that. He pulled into the driveway in a dusty red van with a pine tree air freshener swinging from the mirror. Lena Whitaker? He asked, stepping out and tucking a clipboard under his arm. That's me. 3 doors, full rekey, and deadbolt install. I nodded. Front, back, and the side garage door. He gave a short whistle, half impressed. Clean break? I paused. Something like that. He didn't ask any more questions. I liked him immediately for that, too. While he worked, I walked around the house slowly, gathering things. Tamara's framed Mommy of the Year photo, the one she gave Mom for Mother's Day, and somehow ended up on my bookshelf. Derek's toolbox, still half full, tucked behind the pantry from when he temporarily moved it there last winter. A shoebox of old cards and notes from Carol, most unsigned, most generic. I brought them all to the garage. Boxed. Labeled. Out of sight. For years, I kept those things close like little reminders. Proof I belonged. But now? They just felt heavy. By the time the locksmith was finishing up, I had a pile of labeled boxes stacked neatly near the shelves. One for Tamara. One for Derek. One for Carol. A decade's worth of quiet compromises in cardboard. Done, the locksmith said, handing me 3 new keys on a silver ring. He looked at me carefully. Not nosy, just aware. Want me to show you how to rekey it yourself next time? I blinked, then smiled. Yeah, actually, I would. He walked me through it. I paid in cash. No trace. Before he left, he hesitated at the door. Just for the record, he said, this kind of job, more common than people think. Then he was gone. I locked the door behind him. Slowly. Deliberately. Then I did it again. Just to feel it. I walked to the kitchen and pulled out the spare key jar, the one we'd always used since I was a kid. It held 5 keys, all old now. I dumped them into a paper bag and tied it shut. Tossed it in the trash. Then I taped a note to the inside of the garage door. Your things are in the boxes. Please pick them up by the end of the week. I'm not angry. But I am done pretending this is normal. Lena. I closed the garage door and slid the bolt. There was no rush in my chest. No surge of triumph. Just peace. Not the kind that comes from everything being okay, but the kind that comes from no longer lying about it. I walked back inside and opened the windows. Fresh air rolled in, cold and sharp. It smelled like wood smoke and frozen dirt and a little bit of my own future. I sat on the couch, keys in hand, and finally exhaled. This house wasn't just a structure anymore. It was mine. Inherited, yes. But now, claimed. Room by room, boundary by boundary, I was taking my life back. And no one had to know just yet. Let them enjoy their cozy cabin. Let them post their pictures. Let them laugh without me. When they came back, they'd find everything in its place except their place in it. And maybe they'd finally understand. You can't leave someone out and still expect to come in like nothing happened. The text came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was halfway through wiping down the kitchen counters when my phone buzzed. Tamra. Heard you changed the locks. No one's mad. But you didn't have to be dramatic. You're always so sensitive. That last part. It stayed on the screen longer than the rest. Like my phone knew to leave it there. You're always so sensitive. I stood still, cloth in one hand, lemon cleaner scent curling around me like fog. That phrase had been chasing me since I was 12. When I cried during Dad's funeral and Tamara rolled her eyes at me behind the pew. When I asked Mom why she never hugged me the way she hugged Derek, and she said, "Oh, Lena, don't be so sensitive. That's just how I show love." When I brought up missing the family cookout last spring and Tamara said, "God, it's not that deep." It had always been the same story. I wasn't just hurt. I was too hurt. Too much. Too sensitive. I looked at the screen again, let the words settle like dust on glass. Then I placed the phone face down on the counter and opened the drawer by the fridge. Inside was an old birthday card from my grandmother. I hadn't looked at it in years. She was the only person who never made me feel like I had to shrink. The card was from when I turned 21. A simple front. Sunflowers, blue sky, gold script. Inside, her shaky handwriting read, "You see everything no one else does. That's your gift, even when they don't understand it. Don't dull it down just to keep the peace. Love you always. Grandma Joe. I read it twice. Then a third time. That woman raised 4 kids, lost her husband at 42, and still made time to send me cards with handwriting like that. She didn't call me sensitive. She called me perceptive. And maybe there's a difference. I stood there remembering how, when I was little, I'd flinch when people argued even quietly. How I could tell when someone was smiling with their mouth but not their eyes. How I used to write down conversations after school just to make sense of what people meant instead of what they said. I wasn't fragile. I was tuned in. But that scared people. Because people like Tamra didn't want to be seen that clearly. I picked up the phone again. Scrolled back through old texts, looking for proof. There it was. Back in July, when I'd asked if she wanted help coordinating Mom's birthday. She replied, "Sure. But don't go overboard, you always make it a thing." And before that, when Derek didn't show up to Thanksgiving and I texted her worried something was wrong. "Lena, calm down, you're overthinking. Just let people live." I used to take those things personally. Used to wonder what was wrong with me, why I cared more than everyone else. But maybe the problem wasn't how deeply I felt. Maybe it was how easily I let them tell me I was wrong for feeling anything at all. I walked to the living room and sat down with my journal. The leather-bound one I never showed anyone. I flipped to the first page. A year ago, I wrote, "If I disappeared tomorrow, who would notice? Would anyone adjust their plans?" I had underlined adjust twice. Now I turned to a clean page and wrote, "They didn't just adjust, they were fine, and I'm still here." Then I circled, "I'm still here." Because I was. Not erased. Not broken. Still whole. Still Lena. Still sensitive and no longer ashamed of it. The next morning, I stood in the hallway, staring at the door to the guest room. It still had that little wooden sign hanging from the doorknob. "Welcome home." I bought it 5 years ago, thinking it made the room feel warm. Comforting. Now it felt ironic. No one had used that room in almost a year. Tamra always said her kids preferred the floor in the living room. Derek never stayed past dinner. Mom hadn't spent the night since Dad passed. But I'd kept it made up: clean sheets, fresh towels, little soaps in a basket, like I was still trying to prove I was worth staying with. This morning, I opened the door. The room smelled like lavender dryer sheets and quiet disappointment. The bed was neatly made. The dresser drawers still empty. The walls bare, except for one framed print of a lighthouse, something I picked up at a yard sale in college because it felt like a guest room thing. Ollie. I stood in the doorway for a long time. Then I pulled the blanket off the bed. I didn't stop there. I stripped the sheets, folded them tight, and carried them to the linen closet. Then I unplugged the air freshener and tossed it. By noon, the mattress was leaning against the wall and the headboard was on the porch waiting for donation pickup. I vacuumed. Scrubbed the windows. Opened them wide and let the cold air in. I'd never heard the house this quiet and alive at the same time. It felt like I was breathing out something I didn't know I'd been holding. A couple hours later, I drove to the hardware store and picked up 2 gallons of paint. The shade was called Mist Flower. Somewhere between blue and lavender. Soft. Not sad. The guy at the counter asked if I was redoing a nursery. I smiled and said, "Number. Just finally making space for myself." Back home, I changed into old clothes and started painting. Stroke by stroke, the room transformed. There was a moment somewhere around the second wall when I paused. The sun was hitting the wet paint just right. It shimmered a little. And I felt it again. That thing I hadn't felt in weeks. Maybe months. Hope. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that sneaks in under the noise and settles somewhere in your chest. The kind you don't have to earn. Just accept. I took a break and checked my phone. No new texts. But there was a voicemail from Carrie at Dr. Penner's office. "Hey Lena, just checking back on that Tuesday slot. It's still yours if you want it. No pressure. Just thinking of you." I saved the message. Then I hit call. And this time, I left one. Hi, Carrie. Yes, I'd like to come in. Tuesday works, thanks for not forgetting me. I hung up and stared at the newly painted wall. Still a little uneven, but beautiful anyway. In the corner of the room, I placed a small table from the basement. Then a lamp. Then a sketchbook I hadn't touched in years. I sat cross-legged on the floor and opened to the first blank page. Drew a single line. Then another. I didn't know what it would become. But it didn't matter. This wasn't for them. This wasn't for performance. This wasn't a room waiting for someone else to arrive. It was mine. And for the first time, that felt like enough. They came back the day after New Year's. I knew it before they even pulled in. There was something in the air. A thickness I hadn't felt in days. Like the quiet had finally been pierced. I was in the kitchen, finishing a cup of coffee when headlights swept across the living room window. Then I heard it. Tamra's voice. Shrill. Familiar. Too loud for the driveway. What the actual? Why won't it open? The front doorknob rattled. Then again. Harder this time. I didn't move. I let the mug sit in my hands, warm and still. A second later, Derek's voice joined hers. Try the back. Maybe the code reset. They stomped across the porch. Their steps sounded heavier than usual, like the weight of not being in control had finally hit them. Another knock. Then 3. Then Mom's voice. Soft. Calculated. Lena, honey, are you home? Pause. I walked to the hallway, slowly. Stopped just before the front door. More knocking. Then Tamara again, her voice rising. You seriously changed the locks. You're being ridiculous. A pause. Then, as expected. Can we talk like adults? That phrase used to disarm me. Used to make me doubt what I felt. But not anymore. I stood just inside, close enough to hear, far enough to breathe. No panic. No shaking hands. Just a quiet heartbeat. The doorknob jiggled one last time. Lena, Mom said, voice syrup, thick. Don't do this. We're family. I looked at the note I'd written and taped on the inside window 2 days ago, just in case. It was still there. In my handwriting. Please take your belongings from the garage. I'm not interested in revisiting what happened. I wish you well. There was a pause on the other side. I imagined them reading it. I imagined the way Tamara would tilt her head and scoff. The way Derek would cross his arms and avoid eye contact. The way Mom would say something about overreacting, soft enough to sound like concern. I walked back to the kitchen. Let them sit in the silence. A few minutes later, I heard the garage door open. I had left it unlocked intentionally. Let them collect what was theirs. Just not come through me to do it. More muffled voices. The sound of boxes being shuffled. A thud. A car door slamming shut. I waited for the final knock. It came 10 minutes later. Quieter this time. Just Mom. Lena. I could hear the inhale before the line she's used my whole life. You know we didn't mean to hurt you. I closed my eyes. That's what they always said. When they forgot my birthday. When they made jokes I didn't laugh at. When they left without me. We didn't mean to. But impact doesn't need permission. And silence has never protected me. I stood still. One hand on the countertop. Then, for the first time, I said it out loud, not to them, just to the room. That doesn't make it okay. By the time I turned back toward the door, they were gone. The car had backed out. The driveway was empty again. But this time, I didn't feel left behind. I felt free. That night, the house was quiet again. Not tense. Not waiting. Just still. I turned off the porch light and set my phone in the basket by the door. No new messages. No missed calls. And for the first time in a long while, that didn't feel like a loss. It felt like space. Like breath. I walked into the kitchen and started dinner. Nothing fancy: roasted sweet potatoes, garlic green beans, and a slice of leftover meatloaf from the freezer. I set the table for one. Not out of loneliness. Out of respect. For myself. For the fact that I showed up every day, even when no one else did. I lit a candle and sat down. Chewed slowly. Tasted everything. Midway through, I glanced at the empty chair across from me. And smiled. Because I didn't need it to be filled for this to feel full. After dinner, I washed the dishes and folded the dish towel the way Grandma Jo used to tight, corners aligned, hung neatly on the oven handle. Then I made tea. Carried it to the new room, the one that used to be for guests. The one I painted with my own hands. The mistflower walls caught the lamplight softly. My sketchbook was open on the table. Lines from earlier that week still waiting to become something. But I wasn't in a hurry. Some things didn't need to be finished to feel whole. I picked up the journal I'd started the night after the family left for their trip. Flipped to the last page. Wrote, "They never saw me. But I see myself now. I thought I had to earn a place. But I was always home." I capped the pen, closed the journal, and leaned back in the chair. There were still questions. Still grief, if I let myself find it. But there was also peace. A deep, rooted kind. Not made from anyone else's approval. Just mine. I got up, turned off the light, and walked down the hall. The front door stood steady in its new frame. Deadbolt firm. Locks clean, weather stripping snug. I ran my fingers over the doorknob. Felt its weight. Then turned off the last lamp and headed to bed. And for the first time in years, I didn't dream of leaving. I didn't dream of being let in. I slept. Right where I belonged.